minimized.
So it's rare that both of y'all would be here, and I think you both know I respect both of you and enjoy working with both of you. But since you are both here, and it's just the two of you, could you explain any rational reason that both the CFTC and the SEC exist?
I assume you meant as separate agencies as opposed to existing at all.
Yeah.
Obviously Chairman Gensler will want to speak to this as well. I have chaired the CFTC, now the SEC. I've had tremendous experience with both agencies. They're both populated with incredibly talented and hardworking and committed people. It is my view that if we were creating a regulatory system afresh, we would not have two separate agencies. The market participants are largely overlap. The products tremendously overlap, and we know that from the debate in regulatory reform. The issues between our two agencies are coextensive, and so I think, were it up to me, and of course it isn't, we would have one agency. We don't, and so Chairman Gensler and I are hugely committed to working very closely together, and I think the work over the last 2 weeks demonstrates that we're capable of doing that.
The first part of your question, we exist to protect the markets.
Right.
Public. On the second part of your question,
why y'all exist separately?
But the second part of your question really dates back to the 1930s, when our predecessor in the SEC and when President Roosevelt came to Congress and asked that two agencies be set up, one to oversee what was then called the commodities markets and then the securities markets. Our oversight was on derivatives contracts called futures. And it's been the will of Congress for about 7 or 8 decades now to have two agencies. I do think that we've worked very well together, not just the two of us, but I mean the staffs of these two agencies. And we're working very well with Congress now to fill the one big gap, the over-the-counter derivatives marketplace, to make sure that we cover that. Our focus at the CFTC has been largely on derivatives contracts on exchanges, and the SEC, though we both cover a lot of the same market participants, is on the issuer public and of course the asset managers under the Investment Company Act and the accounting regimes and so forth. So we have complementary regimes. Then it's been the will of Congress that's the way we've been for 7 or 8 decades.
Well, thank you both, and I really do think you have great staffs, and certainly appreciate working with you. I just, as I see you sitting here, I realize another issue we certainly have not dealt, in my opinion, with the core issues regarding this last financial crisis with this bill, and then again, lack the courage as a House and Senate to deal with a very obvious issue, and that is that the two agencies are separated. But again, we deal with everything in the world in this bill, but some of the core issues that need to be dealt with. But I thank you both for being here, and I'm sure y'all will remain separated for many years.